Toyota is making headlines again, and for all the wrong reasons. They filed an appeal in response to a class action verdict that may award $2 billion in damages to over 260,000 car owners. But they can't get environmental concerns off their back, particularly regarding the impact of malfunctioning diesel filters that plagued some of Australia's most well-known vehicles. Let's find out more. First up, what's Toyota done now? In a ruling issued in April by the federal court, it was determined that Toyota had sold vehicles with faulty diesel particle filters during a 5-year period. Through the assistance of attorneys Gilbert and Tobin and Bannister law class actions, Ken Williams brought the lawsuit to light. Williams received $18,000 after discovering his car was producing white smoke a few months after purchasing it. The problem could not be solved despite numerous attempts. Toyota appealed the judgment on Tuesday, claiming there were factual and legal errors. The Hilux, Prado and Fortuner diesel owners who purchased their new vehicles between the 1st of October 2015 and the 23rd of April 2020 and are still in possession of them are covered by the class action judgment. It's possible that more than 260,000 people would be impacted, although it's unclear whether the environmental impact was global or local. Without knowing what was in the tailpipe emissions, Associate Professor Donna Green of the University of New South Wales's Digital Grid Futures Institute said she couldn't predict the environmental impact. Green, however, claimed the 17-year average car lifespan would have an effect on people's health. At first, we worried about the health effects of the diesel particulates in the car on children riding in the back. A tailpipe emits a variety of air pollutants, and none of them are good for the environment, so it's bound to have an effect on the health of anyone who is nearby. They will be affected if they have children in the back seat because they have developing bodies, and that kind of air pollution is bad for them. In addition to the direct risk to human health, Green claimed that extra tailpipe emissions could also have an impact on climate change due to increasing CO2 output. Makes us wonder what it's going to take for corporations to become more mindful and responsible. Next, it's not a good look. Following shareholder complaints at its AGM in Japan last week over its advocacy against the adoption of electric vehicles, Toyota has filed an appeal. Greenpeace Australia Pacific activist Violet Snow claimed that the federal court's decision only serves to highlight Toyota's responsibility in maintaining Australia's sky-high transport emissions. Toyota was formerly at the forefront of the development of cleaner vehicle technologies, but has since lagged. While rival automakers are moving quickly with electric vehicles, Toyota is overspending on obsolete, polluting internal combustion engines and hybrid technology. They are quickly developing a reputation as a laggard in the adoption of clean cars, both in Australia and internationally. Toyota was placed last among all firms by the UK-based think tank Influence Map, which monitors the lobbying activities of the fossil fuel industry for its stance on climate change. Toyota, a hybrid car producer, is regarded as being behind the curve in the production of electric vehicles, having only unveiled its first fully electric vehicle in November of last year. As CO2 emissions from energy generation have decreased, emissions from the road transportation sector are currently expanding at the quickest rate. Due to unclear policy under the previous administration, there were worries that Australia might end up being used as a car dump, since other countries' fuel efficiency rules made it difficult to sell automobiles in other markets. And now for Toyota's response. Partner at Gilbert and Tobin, Matt McKenzie reckons that the federal court's ruling is significant and could cost Toyota a lot of money. Toyota may be faced with a total cost of more than 2.7 billion Australian dollars across the Tasman, with a projected average compensation payout of 10,500 Australian dollars per vehicle. In a news release, Toyota declared that it would contest the court's ruling, adding that Toyota's appeal includes questions to the factual and legal grounds for the award of damages, particularly in circumstances where many of the group members did not experience this issue. The company will continue to provide free repairs to any car owners who are impacted by this particular problem. While McKenzie's law company is dedicated to defending the appeal, payment must be postponed, he says. No payments will be made until the outcome of that appeal is pending. It depends on the parties and the court's availability, but it's not unusual for these kind of things to stretch out through the year. So, fingers crossed that justice is served and that Toyota learns its lesson to put environmental concerns seriously. Up next, facing shortages. Things aren't looking too bright for this car giant. Toyota Motor Corp reduced its July global production target by 50,000 vehicles on Wednesday, as COVID-19 component supply problems and semiconductor shortages persisted in limiting output. The world's largest car manufacturer by volume anticipates producing 800,000 vehicles in March. The lack of semiconductors and the proliferation of COVID-19 make it difficult to predict the future. Therefore, there's a chance that the manufacturing schedule will be lowered, according to the Japanese corporation. Toyota and other auto manufacturers are still dealing with COVID-19 supply chain problems and component shortages, particularly those brought on by recent lockdowns in China. Additionally, automakers must compete with other manufacturers, such as producers of consumer electronics products, for a finite supply of semiconductors. Toyota maintained its aim of 9.7 million vehicles produced globally each year, although indicating in May that supply chain problems would eventually force it to reduce that figure. The automaker announced even more production halts for its GR Yaris subcompact and BZ4X electric SUV at sites in Japan beginning in the month. Here's hoping they come back stronger and greener. Now, in other related news, another recall for Toyota. Don't know about you, but we'd never suggest a Toyota to anyone looking to buy a car right now. Apparently, their tires can literally fall off. The Toyota BZ4X, the automaker's first entirely electric battery vehicle, isn't having the best of times. A handful of BZ4X vehicles, including some from the 2023 model year, are being recalled by the business due to defective wheels. Reuters reports that 2,700 vehicles have been recalled in total, 2,200 of which are for Europe, 260 are for the United States, 110 are for Japan, and 10 are for Canada. Additionally, Subaru announced last week that it was recalling around 2,600 of its Solterra vehicles for the same issue. Toyota claims that it's still looking into the causes of this and that a fix is not yet available. Toyota advised against driving these vehicles until the fix was applied. Next, Uber turns green. Uber's goal of electrifying all of its drivers by 2030 appears to be on track. Over 15,000 Uber drivers have signed up to rent Tesla vehicles through the ride-hailing business's relationship with car rental giant Hertz, it was reported today. According to Uber, the agreement represents the largest ever deployment of electric vehicles on a mobility platform in North America. Since the program's inception last year, more than 5 million Tesla trips have been made, totaling more than 40 million miles. Consumer interest in and demand for electric vehicles are at an all-time high, especially given the rising price of gas. Similar rules apply to Uber drivers, who are always responsible for the cost of fueling their cars on their own. Uber's own evaluation of the all-electric driving experience for their drivers was overwhelmingly positive. According to Uber, 95% of drivers renting Teslas through Hertz had never driven an electric car on the platform before, and 92% of them are now thinking about buying an EV for their next car. With the support of a significant advertising effort starring Tom Brady, news of Hertz's initial purchase of 100,000 Tesla automobiles late last year garnered a lot of attention. The agreement also helped Tesla grow into a $1 trillion firm. In April, Hertz revealed a substantial order for 65,000 Polestar 2 cars, which should be available for hire by the end of the year. Now that's a collaboration we love to see. And finally, F1 cars to be powered by sustainable fuel. Don't you love it when your favorite corp proves that it's woke as well? As the racing strives to attain net zero carbon emissions by 2030, Formula One has announced that it's creating a 100% sustainable fuel to power its next generation hybrid vehicles, which will debut in 2026. The motorsport has already switched to E10 gasoline, a blend of 90% fossil fuels and 10% ethanol, for the 2022 season. According to F1, synthetic fuel has the potential to be used internationally by both internal combustion engines and hybrid vehicles, modernizing the global transportation system. Formula One declared in 2019 that it would become carbon neutral by 2030. Since then, numerous measures have been made to increase sustainability. The F1 offices have already switched to entirely renewable energy sources. In the last 3 years, F1 has implemented remote broadcast operations in an effort to cut freight. As we wait for the 10th round of the season to take place in Silverstone next week, F1 delivered its first ever carbon neutral broadcast production last year in Silverstone and is seeking to obtain the same accreditation in 2022. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Toyota will succumb to the bad press surrounding their recent car mishaps? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.